what is addictions? And what is the difference between an addiction and a bad habit? Now, many people have bad habits, but it wouldn't be labeled an addiction. But for our purposes, if you have a really bad habit with alcohol, drugs, gambling, something that could be considered addictive, it can be treated the same way. But the true difference between a bad habit and an addiction is the fact with an addiction, you keep doing these things even though there's a high negative consequence. In other words, you keep drinking even though you've been suspended at work, your wife is throwing you out of the house and just let you back in, or you've gotten a DUI and you continue drinking and driving. All those kind of behaviors let you know that you're crossed over into an addiction. I like to say that people only really seek help for an addiction or even a really bad habit when they get referred by what I call one of the 4 L's. And that is your lover, your liver, your livelihood, or the law. Most of us only go to get help when, like the law yells at us, we get a DUI, we got a public intox charge, something happens legally. Or it's our livelihood. Your bosses yell at you, or you have your own business and you're not doing well. That's your livelihood. And you also have like your relationships, your spouse, your lover, they've complained about it. So it's one of those 4 L's that bring us into searching for help. But really what happens with an addiction is your brain gets hijacked. It gets hijacked by the addictive process. And we know now that has a lot to do with genetics, and it also has a lot to do with how your brain chemicals work. As Dr. Rudnick says, it's not just a habit, it's a brain-based issue. There's certain things that go on in your neurochemicals that really lead into an addiction. So whether it's a true addiction or it's just a really bad habit, either way, you may need some help overcoming it. But again, with an addiction, what it really is that you can't quit on your own, right? Once that happens, if you say, I'm not going to drink today, I'm not going to get high today, I'm not going to gamble today, and then before you know it, you're already doing it later in that day. That is an addiction. That's one of the classic symptoms. Another classic symptoms of addiction, especially for alcoholism, is a blackout. And that doesn't mean you pass out. That's normal. You should pass out when you get a certain alcohol level. But some people, even though their alcohol level goes up, they don't really pass out, but they black out. That means they can't remember what they did. They really can't remember. Many people would say, oh, it's just because they don't want to remember. No. It's the fact they can't remember. It's like the record button on the microphone never got pushed. So the memories aren't encoded. When I worked for the prison, there were several people I worked with that to the day, many years later, they didn't have any idea of what they did, because whatever they did under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and they were in a blackout. And that's sad, right? And, a lot of times you have to just become aware of the fact you need help to quit. Again, I was at the prison one day and there was a guy there serving several years for a felony DUI. And I asked him, did you ever try treatment? Did you ever try going to AA meetings? Did you ever try anything? And he looks at me and goes, Doc, I wasn't that bad. And I'm like, dude, you're sitting there in handcuffs in a in a state prison, right? So it's like, it's bad. But that's denial. You don't think the problem's that bad. But whether it's just a bad habit or an addiction, you need help if you just can't stop on your own. And so that's what we're here to talk about, is how to help you stop.